experienced climbers entered Mount Rainier National Park in 1959. Only 6 were ever recovered. And not a single one was found where they were supposed to be. They called it an avalanche. But the autopsies disagreed. The search teams were pulled off early. The files were sealed. And what no one ever explained was why every single watch they wore had stopped at exactly 3:17 a.m. Mount Rainier stands 14,410 feet tall, the highest peak in Washington state. A sleeping volcano. Cold, brutal, unforgiving. In late January 1959, 9 members of the Olympic Climbing Society set out for a winter ascent. They were all experienced, college-aged, trained in avalanche survival. 2 had military backgrounds. 1 was a med student. Their names were recorded, but only in local papers, and only for a few days. They were supposed to return by February 2nd. When they didn't, their families called the park. Rangers waited 48 hours. Then the search began. What they found didn't make sense. The group's base camp empty. Tents, food, climbing gear untouched. Snow undisturbed. No tracks in or out. Just 9 backpacks, lined up in a perfect row, like they'd left in single file. The first body was found 200 feet from the tent, face down, no shoes, ribs broken, blood frozen in his mouth. The second body was discovered 2 days later, sitting upright, back against a tree, eyes wide open, no visible injuries, but his face was twisted in terror. Then came the others, scattered over half a mile. 1 buried under snow with a snapped spine. 1 clutching a notebook, pages soaked and illegible. They found 6 bodies. The last 3 never recovered. But it's not just the positions that raised questions. It was the time of death. Each climber wore a watch, standard practice in those days. When recovered, all 6 watches had stopped. Different makes, different models. But each one stopped at exactly 3:17 a.m. Autopsy reports were inconsistent. 1 body showed signs of hypothermia, yet he had deep internal bruising, like he'd been hit by a car. Another was missing his tongue. 2 had high levels of radiation on their clothes, levels impossible to explain for hikers. When the lead coroner requested more time, he was denied. The case was closed within 11 days. Cause of death, avalanche. But no evidence of avalanche was ever photographed. No shifted snow. No broken trees. No debris field. One of the recovered climbers held a waterproof notebook. Most pages were ruined. But on the last page, the ink had bled just enough to read 1 line. Something moved under the snow. The National Park Service announced the incident as tragic but natural. But members of the first search team later admitted something else. A section of the climb path, roughly 300 feet wide, had been scorched. Charred snow. Burned gear. But no fire source. 3 searchers later refused to speak publicly. 1 left the country. 1 died in a car crash a month later. The third, Alan Greaves, was institutionalized in 1963. His last known words scribbled in pencil. "We were not alone on that mountain." In 1974, a retired geologist published a paper claiming Mount Rainier had subglacial seismic vents, and that hikers may have encountered superheated gas eruptions. But his findings were retracted. No such vents exist. Other theories emerged. Military testing. A secret experiment. A psychotic break. None explained why the missing 3 were never found. Or why 6 men, all trained for extreme cold, abandoned shelter without shoes. The story faded from the public eye. But every February 2nd, rangers say radios near that part of the trail crackle at 3:17 a.m. Batteries die. Static blares. Then silence. In 2016, an amateur hiker uploaded drone footage from Rainier. For 3 seconds, a shade can be seen moving beneath the snow. The video was removed within 24 hours. He never uploaded again. There are stories buried deeper than snow. Stories that don't freeze. They just wait. And every so often, they breathe. So if you ever climb Mount Rainier, and your watch stops at 3:17 a.m., don't wait to see what comes next. Turn back. Because some mountains never forget.